Hi guys, I'm Josh and this is Rob, and welcome to the Football Unspoken podcast where we talk about all things football the mainstream media do not. So Rob, let's get straight into it. As usual, we've got a little intro question for you, but something a bit different, a bit of a rapid fire today. Rapid fire game for you.
Oh my.
So it's a two-parter. I'm gonna name a few clubs, and I want you to tell me, from your perspective, who was the best striker to play for that club.
Oh no, I'm going to forget I'm going to be sitting there trying to figure out who plays striker, man. All right. All right.
Okay, so I'll start you off with an easy one. Newcastle.
Okay, well, it's clearly Alan Shearer. I'm not even going to debate. It's Alan Shearer.
Arsenal.
Central striker. I'm going to go Thierry Henry. I was close to Van Persie, but Henry.
Tottenham.
Kane.
Chelsea.
Oh, Drogba.
Cool. I'm glad you said Drogba because that takes me into the next question of the intro. Who's the better striker, Kane or Drogba?
Oh, that is okay. I'm gonna go.
I like that. This is the intro question.
This is the intro question. I've already been done. Right, as it's the intro question, it's Kane. Kane's the better striker.
Okay. Cool.
But,
statistically, you want to go into it?
Yeah, I just want to go quickly into it because I'm scared of getting a bollocking. So Drogba's a great striker, but he's like, I feel like he's renowned for the moments, not for the seasons.
Yeah, I don't want you to go too into that. We're going to speak more about Drogba in a second. So
okay.
So just statistically, Kane is a better striker. In looking at Premier League only, he had a goal or assist nearly every game. It was like 0.88 per game average, where Drogba, even if you take out when he returned to Chelsea, because I'm not sure that really counted that season he came back, he still only had a 0.72 goal or assist per game ratio. So Kane statistically was better. Anyway, going into the real question now, before you stole the march on the whole question, my question for this week is Didier Drogba overrated as a striker?
Oh my. That's a horror show of a question because I'm gonna be 100% honest, and I'm gonna go he's overrated as a striker, and I'm gonna put my neck out there and say he's overrated as a striker. The reason I say this is because, don't get me wrong, he is a fantastic striker, and I reckon in the moment you want him there, but realistically, do I want Didier Drogba leading the line 90 minutes a game every game for a full season over Harry Kane, over Thierry Henry, over Alan Shearer, over these kind of players? I don't think I do. And I think there's Didier Drogba is brought into the conversations around those kind of players when I don't think he's deservedly in that conversation. Just because he's got, like I said, he's a moments player. And 100%, if you can bring that guy off, if Chelsea could bring him off the bench right now, I still reckon he'd be their best chance of scoring a goal. Like right now in the state it is, doesn't even need to go practice. He can just rock up on the field, get out.
Why do you say he's a moments player? What makes you say that?
The reason I say he's a moments player is because you look at like the big games, the semi-finals, the finals that he's played in, the Champions Leagues that he's gotten through, and even Chelsea. Like when Chelsea won whenever Chelsea won with Didier Drogba, you always had one or two games where you sit there and you're like, oh, Chelsea were under the pump, and the Drogba's driven a corner in, like gone above everyone with a corner, or has just come out with with his best game of all time in those specific moments. But at the same time, off the top of my head, I can't think of a season where I've gone every game, oh my word, it's Didier Drogba. This is horrifying. Like I can remember moments, but I can't remember seasons.
It's really interesting hearing you speak about it, having gone and looked back at his stats or whatever. As I said, his goals and assists ratio was still really high at 0.72 while he was
Mm.
at Chelsea the first time. But some of the stats that he did have, which were, it's funny because you told the story without even knowing the stats, just from visually. He scored 10 goals in 10 finals that he played in his
Yeah.
career, which is kind of your point. But he didn't hit as many goals as I think most people would assume. So I said the 0.72, that's goals and assists. So if it was just goals, it's like 0.5, which is still really good. But you'd say as the leading striker for like Chelsea, who at that time were winning titles or whatever, you would have, I mean, you look at any other strikers who are the leading, like Kane's and maybe Haaland's or whatever, they're going to be way higher for those averages. Even Rooney or whatever are going to be actually high on the goals to game ratio. So, yeah, it was kind of fascinating hearing you basically explain that without actually seeing the stats. The one question, though, I want to kind of follow up with is where do you place him then in your sort of top Premier League strikers? Is he like sort of in 10th position? You don't need to give me your full list. I just need to give me a rough estimate on where is he top 10, top 15, that which kind of range is he sitting then?
Oh, he's definitely top 15. There's no doubt about that. I'm trying to quickly run through the list in my head to see if he's. I'm sure he's top 10. He's not top 5. In my category, he's not top 5. I just off the top of my head, I think Aguero, Shearer, Henry, Kane, Rooney, like those. Just off the top of my head, those 5 immediately.
There's definitely some. I'm not giving one of them, but there's definitely going to be someone in there who's been shafted for not getting that list. And all the comments are just going to be, "What about X, Y, Z?"
Yeah, I'm gonna have so many blokes going, "What about this player? What about that player?" To them, I say, well, if we're gonna go there, then Papi Cisse, but specifically Papi Cisse from like January 2012 is the best striker the Premier League's ever seen. So but it's only had like 1 month for them. But no, I would put him top 10. He's probably around 7-8 in terms of Premier League. In terms of I think I will say I do think he's almost a bit higher on that list because of those. He's definitely a bit higher on the list because of those moments. So I might actually push him up to like 6 because you want a player for that final. You want a player. You're in the Champions League final. You have a choice of bringing anyone on. You probably want Didier Drogba. The guy just scores goals there.
There's been such a funny episode because I feel like before I've even asked any questions or even built the conversation further, you almost just preemptively start answering. Like in the beginning, I was doing the intro, Kane versus Drogba, and you just went off to go talk about Drogba. That was the question. And I was going to ask you, don't you think because he scored in the finals and in the big games, people really remember him almost. No one really remembers when you played out a 0-0 draw against West Brom at home, and let's say Drogba played 10 of those. That's not an actual stat, that's just an example. But no one's going to remember that. But if he scores the winner in the Champions League final against Bayern, which he did, then everyone remembers that. So I think that's the point.
That's exactly the point. I mean, you look at I'll bring someone else in. You look at Steven Gerrard, and like his crowning jewel moment is that moment in Istanbul, and like he had some great games, he did, but realistically, that's the moment he's remembered for. That's the one thing that he kind of rests his head on, and I think Didier Drogba is lucky enough to have 10 of those moments. That is outrageous. To have 10 finals and 10 goals it's just outrageous.
The last thing I'll just close off the episode with is just mentioning it was quite interesting looking at the spread of goals that Drogba scored against which teams in the Premier League I more mean. So the team he scored the most goals against by far was Arsenal, which is kind of impressive because they weren't a bad team, but he somehow always scored. I actually vaguely remember the commentators in one of the games saying Arsenal play the football, Drogba scores the goals, basically, in terms of Arsenal had all the possession and Drogba just scores anyway. But after that, it's just, and you would expect this to a degree, but I think it's surprising how heavily weighted it is in this way. All of Drogba's goals are against like West Brom, Middlesbrough, heavily weighted there, and literally right at the bottom, despite having played almost the most matches against these teams, Liverpool and Man United, Man City are very low on how many goals he's actually scored against those clubs.
Yeah.
Which is maybe also furthering the point that you were trying to make earlier.
I will say one thing in his defense on that point, and I do think it's because he played in a Chelsea team that was defensive minded. They were set up to be very solid defensively, so that's probably part of the reason and of why they didn't. But at the same time, I do think that is, like I said, great moments, man, 100%. One of the best strikers the Premier League has ever seen, definitely.
Yeah.
But is he overrated? I think there's an argument there. I would probably say yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. I think that was a great episode there. And thanks to everyone for taking a listen. Stay tuned for next week where Rob's going to take us through one of his own topics. Hopefully he's got less landmines for me than I had for him today. Anyway, guys, all the best, and we'll see you soon on the Football Unspoken podcast.